Alright, we're in part 7 on the circle of fifths. Okay, now guys, I'm not watering this down for you. I'm not making it easy or anything. Well, hopefully I am making it easy, but I'm not dumbing it down and leaving out information just to get views. I'm giving you the whole ball of wax here. And thanks to all of you for all your well-wishing for our new baby girl we just had, and someone even donated some money for diapers for us, so that was very nice. Thank you for that. You know who you are. I never mention names on the videos. Anyway, part 7. Part 6, which I just finished doing a minute ago. We had a lot of information. Hopefully that was sinking in, okay? So this is what you need. We always do review, but I'm not going to do an extensive review here, just real quick. Do you know what these terms are? Can you tell me what they are? If you can't, then you need to go back and study part 6 and tell me what they are. Do you know what the capital M means and the lowercase m and the lowercase d? You should be able to tell me what that means. Alright, and you should be able also to tell me what the primary chords are. Now, I have it written out here in red for you, but you should know 1, 4, and 5. The 1, the 4, and the 5 chord. We haven't even gotten to chords yet. We're about to get to that. So now, next what we're going to do down here at the bottom is we're going to build some chords. Instead of just telling you what the chords are in this key, which most professors and teachers do, I guess, we're going to actually construct them ourselves so you understand where they come from. Okay? So, what I have down here is I have the C scale written out. Now remember, I could use any scale, I could plug in any scale, but I just choose to do C because it's neutral, no flats and no sharps to confuse you, okay? It's the basic white key scale. Okay. So here are what are called my scale degrees, diatonic scale degrees. Now the word diatonic, D-I-A-T-O-N-I-C, means in the key. Okay? I'm going to build chords based on this system. I'm not going to pull from any other key except the notes in my C scale. Remember, the C scale is the building blocks for my chords. Okay? So, we're going to start here. A chord is going to have 3 notes at least. We're going to use 3-note chords. Now, I know guitar players play what's called power chords and they just use fifths. You know, they do that all the time. But for our purposes here, got to have 3 notes, okay? 3 notes, 3 for a chord, 3 tones. Alright, so down here I have my C scale. What we're going to do is we're going to build a little house, on a 3-story house, on each scale degree, on each diatonic tone in the key of C. Okay? So we're going to start on C here, and we're going to have 7 chords that we use. Now, each chord is going to have, like I said, 3 tones. The bottom one, okay, on the bottom here, the bottom story of the house is going to be called the root note, because of course a root is in the ground. It's grounded. It's the foundation of whatever plant you're talking about or whatever. It's the strongest part of the chord is the root note. Okay, that's why I have an R here for root. C is the root. Then when we build that chord, we're going to go on to D, and then D will be our root for the D chord. And then E will be our root for the E chord, and then F will be our root for the F chord, and so forth. Okay? So let's build what's called a C chord here. Now chords are built on something called tertian harmony. I think it's T-E-R-T-I-A-N, I think. But it's called tertian harmony, and that's chords built on thirds. Now so here's how we're going to build it. I wrote really small here in black the alphabet. Okay? And we're going to form our chords from thirds. This is what you do. If I find a C in here, see the C, I'm going to find a C where I wrote here, and I'm going to skip a letter, go to the next one, skip a letter, go to the next one. Those are my 3 notes. That's all I do because I did thirds. From C to E is called a third because you count 3 letters all together. C, D, E, 1, 2, 3. So C to E is called a third, the interval of a third. From E to G is a third because there's 3 letters involved. E, F, G. You count the first one, you count the last one, and it ends up being 3. E, F, G. 3 letters, I said. Okay? Don't count the keys, count the letters when you're talking about intervals. The interval of a third. Okay, so C to E is a third. So my middle note here is going, for the C chord, it's going to be an E, and I'm going to call that note the third of my chord. It's the middle story of the house. It's the second story of the house, where you have your pool table and your media stuff, your big screen TV, and where the kids play and everything. So that's your middle story. I don't have a 3-story house, so no, I don't even have a 2-story house. I got a 1-story. Don't want to climb stairs. Alright, so C and E is our middle note, which is called the third of the chord. The top note of my chord, and all of you have probably sat down at the piano and done this. Come on, you've done that. Okay? The next one is G, and I'm going to call that the fifth. And you may say, well, Shawn, I thought you said thirds. We're talking about thirds. We are. E to G is a third, but if we measure from C, G is a fifth. And remember, it's 5 letters. So if I go from C to G and I count every letter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, D, E, F, G, that gives us 5. And G is the fifth of my chord. E is the third of my chord. C is the root. We're going to build 6 more chords on this same formula. So you see how you find the formula and you just plug it in and it works in all the keys on every chord. Okay? Now, the name of my chord, what's the name of this chord? Well, it has several names. It's a C chord, definitely, because it has those 3 letters. But it's also called a 1 chord in the key of C. It's also called the tonic chord in the key of C. Now, if I were not in the key of C, it would not be called the tonic chord, because C wouldn't be 1. I'd have one of these other letters as my scale. Okay? But whenever we're in the key of C, then we're going to call that C chord tonic. Okay, we're going to call it our 1 chord, our major 1 chord, our C chord. But listen to this, it's always a C chord. I don't care what key I'm in. If I have those 3 letters in combination, I'm playing a C chord. I can even mix them up. Watch this, C, G. I'm going to throw the C up here. Is it still a C chord? Yes, it is. You say, well, no, it's not, Shawn, because E's on the bottom now. That doesn't matter. The name of the chord is only on the bottom when it's in root position. Okay? When it's in nice, neat root position, it looks like that, like, you know, an Oreo cookie with the cookie on the outside and the filling in the middle. Then you have the root note on the bottom. If I mix it up and I put the C up here, then it's no longer, then it's still a C chord. It's not in root position, but it's still a C chord. Let's mix it up again. Let me put the E up here. That's still a C chord because I have those 3 letters. Okay, now I'm getting ahead of myself into chord inversions, but we'll get there. But anyway, understand that that's a C chord. Now we're moving on to the D chord. And that is, by the way, a major chord. We'll explain in the next lesson why it's major, what makes it major. The second chord is my D chord, or my 2 chord. So we just finished this one. We just did it down here. Now I'm going to do the second scale degree, the supertonic, the minor chord. And I'm going to build the chord. So let's erase my blue here and let's do the same thing. What 3 letters are in a D chord? Well, D, of course. Skip E, go to F. Skip F, go to A. Skip G, go to A. So those are my letters for my D chord. D, F, A. I know you can just do this, but I want you to know why the chords are formed the way they are. Okay? So what's the root of a D chord? D. What's the third of my D chord? F. What's the fifth of my D chord? A. D, F, A. Great. Good job. Okay? F is a third away from D. A is a fifth away from D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. D, E, F, G, A. Remember, you count all the letters. That's my interval, we call it. D to A. Okay, now, can I mix those letters up and it still be a D chord? Yes. Okay? But when it's in root position, which means the D's on the bottom, then it makes it the easiest to understand and look at and say, oh, that's a D chord. But if I mix the letters up, that gets more confusing, right? But if I got it in root position, D, F, A, and that's all we're concerned about right now is root position. I was getting ahead of myself a little bit with the inversion, so if you didn't quite get that, that's all right. So there's my minor 2. It's called a D minor chord. It's also called a minor 2 or a supertonic chord in the key of C now. If we're in a different key, it's going to be called something different. But it's always a D chord. D, F, A, those 3 letters. Now let's move on to the third chord, the 3 chord. It's minor, and it's what that's called? The mediant. Okay, now I just showed you, but let's build it again. E, and then I skip a letter, go to G, skip a letter, go to B. E, G, B. So G is my third. B is my B is my fifth. So E, G, B. E's the root. G and B. Let's go on, because you're probably getting this, hopefully. Now we're into an important chord, right? The 4 chord, the subdominant chord. Subdominant. Alright, that's going to be F, and then we do it again. F, skip a letter, skip a letter. I just have my alphabet written out there so you can see linearly how we are deriving these chords. F, A, C. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you something that'll really blow your mind once we get through here. So hang on. The next chord, the 5 chord, the dominant chord in the key of C is the G chord, G, B, D, because I can go G, B, D, right? Now let's get to the submediant, the 6th chord, the minor chord, A, C, E, and that's going to be right here, A, C, E. And that's our 6th chord. Now we're going to get to the B chord, the diminished chord, and that's going to be B, D, F. Okay, so if we went B, D, F, there we go. So that's the diminished. So major 1, minor 2, minor 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, diminished 7, diminished. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you some. Oh, I have a mistake here. I was going to see if you caught that, and I guess you did. There it is. All right. Are the rest of them correct? Sometimes I make a mistake. There we go. Okay. You know what? This is it. There aren't any more chords besides this. Yes, we can add 7ths and 9ths and 11ths and 13ths and all of that. But these letters here are the basis for all your chords that you'll ever do. I can put sharps. I mean, if there were sharps on some of these, if there were flats on some of these, it doesn't matter. These combinations of these letters will occur all through music, and this is it. This is all there are. These are the only combinations of letters you'll find for 3-note chords. Now, yes, we can add 7ths and 9ths and all that later, but I'm talking about just 3-note chords. But even the 7ths and 9ths that we'll add will be based on the foundation of these 7 chord combinations, these letter combinations. We call these the triad vocabulary, and it's so important I'm going to write it down. Triad, my phone's going off in there. Triad vocabulary. And this is what you need to memorize. C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F. Because we're going to, in all our keys that we use, we're going to plug them in up here and put sharps and flats all over all of them. But the letters combinations will not change. In any of these keys, we'll have a C, E, G chord. Now, yes, we'll have sharps and flats on some of these notes. In any of these keys, we'll have an E chord, E, G, B. Yes, flats and sharps, but it'll still be that letter combination, E, G, B. So you see what I mean? C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F. You need to memorize that, called the triad vocabulary. Okay? So I think that's enough for this lesson. In the next one, part 8, we'll go a little further into this. Hope you guys are enjoying this.